Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are testing out Brustro Artists Watercolor ink set A and set B. Also sharing small tutorial too. Creative Hands Art Material recently launched their new Brustro Artists Watercolor ink set A and set B. They sent me both sets for review. But when I unboxed the package and noticed that one of the sets was not packaged properly. But luckily, I was a little relieved when I saw that the glass bottle in the set were not broken. Then I placed each of the glass jar properly in the set, and I hope no one gets this set with such inappropriate packaging. If you want to buy both sets, please keep in mind the delivery safety of the package. Rather than worrying, it will be better to buy directly from stationery instead. Both sets include 6 ink bottles and both sets include one neon color. Set A include neon orange color and set B include neon pink color. Watercolor ink are bright. They usually come in glass bottle for easy and convenient access. These vibrant and transparent colors are packed in 15 ml elegant glass jar fitted with glass pipette for easy dropping of the liquid directly onto the palette. Not only these are absolutely great to be used with brushes but are also ideal for applications like calligraphy where deep pens or fountain pens are used. If you have not mixed water to the ink left in the palette, it is possible to refill the ink with the glass pipette into the glass jar. I cut a large piece of watercolor paper into small pieces and made these for swatches because watercolor ink can spread like traditional ink. First, I am going to wet the paper and then start applying the ink. Set A has 6 shades: fuchsia, neon orange, aquamarine, spring green, chocolate, and black color. Being dye-based ink, these colors are not light fast, but you can lighten and darken colors and mix them with others to achieve other colors in the Brustro range. Set B also has 6 shades: butterscotch, ruby, neon pink, tangerine, teal, and indigo colors. I am using titanium white watercolor to do calligraphy over swatches card. Watercolor ink can be brighter and smoother than watercolors because the ink is not contained gradual. Their chemical formula are much purer and can remain in the brighter liquid form even after adding a little water. Ink do stain your brushes and are rather hard to clean out our brush due to the smaller particles, so try a cheap synthetic brush first to see if you like how it flows. These Brustro Artists Watercolor inks are ideal for all watercolor technique and calligraphy. Another excellent use for watercolor ink is that you can paint with them just like you would with watercolor. They are pretty much ideal for monochromatic studies because they will consistently be the same color and you can dilute them further to get even lighter tones. Watercolor ink are liquid colors used for writing, drawing, and painting, unlike watercolor in the sense that they are already diluted but similar in performance. Painting done in watercolor ink looks so similar to watercolor painting that it can be hard to tell the difference, but don't be fooled by how similar they can look because they are completely different to actually use. Now we are going to find out difference between watercolors and watercolors ink. I am using Brustro Artists Watercolour for testing. I have started the first pair of swatches about color lifting. You are seeing how easily the pigment lifts from the paper with a wet brush. The watercolor is far easier to lift, and if I had given it more time, the paper would have become very close to white. You are seeing that the watercolor ink is less permanent, but still it stains the paper more than the watercolor does. So be mindful of that. Watercolor ink are liquid colors used for writing, drawing, and painting. Unlike watercolor, in the sense that they are already diluted but similar in performance. A common problem with ink is that the edge of the pedal will dry quicker and darker than the middle, and any attempt to smooth it out can easily wind up lifting the water pigment in the middle. Be quick and careful when blending out an edge so that you do not end up making the dark streak at the pedal edge worse. The third swatch is about how two colors should layer with each other. In both swatches, I have started with blue, then layered green over the top, then added a little more blue to stop the green from overpowering it. The difference between these two mediums is that watercolor is particles of pigment suspended in water, and watercolor ink is more of a liquid stain. This means that the watercolor hue will mix more, while layered ink will make the new color more, with the light shining through the different layers. The fourth swatches is a quick out trying to darken and blend the colors while they are still wet. The watercolor was once again far easier to blend due to nature of the pigment. The shellac in the ink once again dried quickly at the edge in the drier place of the circle, and if I had gone back in to try and lift the dark edge, I would have only lifted the middle and ruined the dark portion of the circle. Final swatches are another color mixing. However, this time instead of layering green over a fully dry layer of blue, I am blending the colors when they are still wet. The watercolor ink blend turned out softer and more pleasant this time because this was not layering. The watercolor as usual was easy to blend. It is clear that the swatches is that watercolor inks are far more difficult than traditional watercolor for several reasons, but also it's clear to see that the ink have smooth texture with no granulation, and also the colors are super vibrant. So it is true that they are difficult, but this might be worth it to you depending on your taste in color and texture. We are going to paint a simple geometric form like a sphere. Get a deeper understanding of the difference between watercolors and watercolor ink. The watercolor sphere was made with a lot of wet and dry and wet on wet technique and making sure the paint become more concentrated with each layer. While working in watercolor sphere, it was easy to leave pigment with the paper towel to make the highlight brighter. I have made highlight lifting some color with a wet brush only. As with watercolor, you will start with the lightest shade in the painting because the ink is pretty much the darkest. You need to thin it in the water on your palette. To make the lightest shade, you will need to start with use an eyedropper or pipette to get the ink and the water into the well. Use very thin ink to make an even wash over the circle. Notice how the pigment spread it and create some beautiful visual when the ink is thin. When that layer is still as wet as possible, add another layer with a bit less water. Do not overwork any areas and have patience. I am doing wet on wet technique instead of using layering technique to avoid problem of the jagged edge. You have now seen watercolor and watercolor ink compared in a swatch test and a basic spear painting exercise. So let's paint something fun now. I am going to paint the same cloud painting twice using the same wet on wet technique but with the two different medium so that you can see the difference between the result. Cloud painted with watercolor have a lovely granulation effect with the Prussian blue and ultramarine in the sky, and the way that the Prussian blue, grey and black spread slightly in the wet on wet cloud area. These watercolor clouds are soft, gentle and natural. Watercolor ink sky is a lot more uniform and smooth and vibrant than the watercolor sky. The wet on wet technique for the cloud worked just as well here as it did with the watercolor, although I did use a slightly different color mixture. For cloud, I mixed the aquamarine, black and chocolate color. However, the way that my ink set was pigmented made the aquamarine, chocolate and black mixture look warm grey color. The black ink color must have had a strong pigment. So which is better, watercolor or watercolor ink? Certainly watercolor is easier and more versatile. The color of the watercolor ink is lot more saturated and the washes are smoother. If you like that look, then it might be worth it to add watercolor ink to your art supply collection. For me, both are wonderful. You have now seen difference between watercolor and watercolor ink and how watercolor ink works. I will be using same technique that I used during spear painting and swatches this. I am using Brustro Artists Watercolor paper 300 GSM 100% cotton paper cold pressed. I am using chocolate, ruby, tangerine, butterscotch, aquamarine, neon pink and black color. I will be wetting the paper first, just like I do with watercolor painting. First, I am starting with a lighter tone by adding chocolate color. Mix it with a little amount of water. For second layer, I mix the chocolate color with butterscotch, tangerine and bit of ruby color. For the eyeball, I mixed black color with aquamarine color and little amount of water. Using a darker skin tone and adding shadow, shading and some detail creases. I am using a very thin ink color mixture and you just notice it how the pigment spray and create some beautiful visual nuance when that layer is still as wet as possible. Adding another layer with a bit less water. You can see in the painting how the edge of the puddle want to stay dark. Don't overwork any areas and have patience. Continue layering with more concentrated ink. A good way to prevent the problem of the jagged edge is to clean the brush, dry it and drag it sideways on its side across the edge of the wet ink layer. As long as you don't overwork it, it's a nice blending trick. Giving black color for hair. I am going to use layering technique for hair to make hair more realistic. For second layer, giving aquamarine color. Mix it with neon pink color and making sure the layer underneath is dry first. Continue to deepen the tone on shades part with more layers. Add interesting details and texture. Giving chocolate mix it with butterscotch and tangerine color. For eye, giving black color with a bit less water. To make eyebrows, giving chocolate color mix it with black color over a fully dry layer. Chocolate color mix it with aquamarine color to give a darker velvet paint, a bleed up shade. To make eyelashes, I am giving black color with a bit less water. To make lip more realistic, I am using color mixing technique. However, this time instead of layering over a fully dry layer, I am blending the color when they are still wet. Giving chocolate color mix it with aquamarine color. Giving indigo mix it with neon pink with a bit less aquamarine color. Giving chocolate color mix it with a bit of black and aquamarine color. Ruby color mix it with tangerine color to make it more bright. And for darker shade, giving ruby mix it with a bit less of chocolate color. Going to paint darker background by using indigo mix it with neon pink, and for purple shade neon pink mix it with aquamarine color. I am using wet on wet technique and using more brush to create background more beautiful. I am blending the color when they are still wet. While layer of purple color is still wet, I am giving layer of black mixed with aquamarine and bit of chocolate color. On larger area, I am mixing 2-3 colors while they are still wet. When the first layer of aquamarine and neon pink is as red as possible, I am adding a layer of indigo mixed with neon pink, and then for darker shade, I am giving a bit less of black color. The blending of larger area turn it out more softer and more vibrant. I am using miniature rigger brush to make hair more elastic, giving black color, as well as using titanium white watercolor to make highlight and the giving violet and purple color. I love how vibrant and rich the colors are, but be warned, since these are watercolors, they can be reactivated with water. For light over cloth, giving aquamarine mix it with indigo and neon pink color. While this layer is still wet, I am adding black color with a bit less water. Watercolor ink can spread like traditional ink, so remember not to add too much water. Otherwise, that wet layer will spill over the front detail and spoil the shape of the area. To avoid this problem, wet the paper with a little amount of water. Let it dry a bit and watercolor ink with a bit less of water. This technique allows for more control. The paint will only go where your brush take it. I really love the cloth painted with watercolor ink. Look soft, gentle and natural. Giving black color for hair. If the watercolor ink has dried completely in the ceramic palette, the ink can be easily reactivated by adding a little water. I am using titanium white watercolor to make detail over cloth. Ruby color and butterscotch color mixed with chocolate color. I hope this video helps you to understand difference between watercolor and watercolor ink and how wonderful watercolor inks are. I think this Brustro Artists Watercolor ink are really great set for professional artists and beginner artists. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram if you made a painting by watching this video. I will be using this art supply again. You can find the full list of art supply used in this video in the description area. I hope that in future more shade of this Brustro Artists Watercolor ink will be available soon.